building a brand. What do you think are the key elements in building a successful junk removal business brand?
Uh, Being seen. Just, 1-800 Got Junk is where they're at today, not because of their advertising or anything like that. It's just people see them. They see that brand everywhere. Make yourself visible. If you're out and about in your truck, your trailer, your if you got an Isuzu dump truck and it's got it branded, makes everything has to be branded down to your uniform, down to your hat, whatever you got, be branded, be seen. If you're in your brand new wrapped Isuzu that you just got and you go out to lunch, don't you pull into the Burger King parking lot, don't park in the back of the building and eat. Park that truck where it's visible, because most of these fast food places are on a busy intersection or a busy road and things like that. Park it out where the people driving down the street's going to see your truck while you're in there eating. Make yourself visible as much as possible. Hell, sometimes, if you got your truck and trailer at home, if you're a small business and you have that and you need to go grocery shopping, take your truck with you. Park it somewhere on the side of the road while you're getting groceries, but make yourself visible. Not only that, you know, especially if in you're like me, I'm in a smaller town. I work in the Atlanta area, but I'm west of Atlanta. I have a lot. It's a smaller area. I'm not doing a whole lot in the Atlanta area. I handle the West Georgia area, a lot of more smaller towns. So to be seen, I have to make myself seen in the community. You know, participating in community events, setting up vendors tents at different events that they have. I have an event that's coming up. I've done a lot of work with the American Cancer Society, their Relay for Life. I participate in all their events, just different vendor events, and just making myself visible in the community and having that community being part of the Chamber of Commerce. I joined the Chamber of Commerce, to make myself visible to the actual county. And then I get people from the county actually calling me, and plus I'm able to network with other businesses within the county. Hell, within 6 months of being in the Chamber of Commerce, I was actually given this award, Small Business to Watch finalist, because I
Oh,
made myself visible in the community. Not just because I'm doing a lot of business, but just because I'm active in the community and making that community important to me, and they see that.
what's some of the organic growth that you've been chasing? As far as like yard signs, door hangers. I know when I had Ronnie on, you were a big fan of door hangers and all. So can you kind of give me some examples of things that you're implementing for organic growth?
Well, definitely the yard signs. The yard signs are big, and that actually has been very challenging for me because, you know, obviously the best route to go is I had a lot of yard signs with my logo on it and everything else, but I was having a lot of issues with the county. They didn't like yard signs, and they wanted to fine me $1,000 per sign. So
Wow.
it was a big issue. So I had to switch up my game and put it without my logo, and just even got a Google Voice phone number, which is something I learned from Andrew Thompson. He does it for tracking purposes. I did that to make sure that I'm not fined by the county. And there's certain counties outside of here that I handle as well. That's not a big of a deal. So I have to kind of switch up my game on that. It was probably, which kind of hurt because, like I said, branding to me is very important, and not having my logo on there and not having my brand on those signs, you know, it's kind of disappointing to me. So, but as far as door hangers go, yes, door hangers are important. And what Ronnie said, I jumped in there because that was really important. Because when you're at a customer's house, you have your billboard in front of this customer's house. Their nosy neighbors are driving down the street or peeking out their curtains, looking at what are they guys doing? Oh, yeah, they got a junk company over there. You know what? I got junk. Maybe I call them. Walk into the next room, forget about it. But if you go after every job, you go 5 houses down, cross the street, 5 houses back. Your partner goes the other direction, 5 houses down, cross the street, 5 houses back. Now all those neighbors have a reminder. If they want to call you, they have something. They say, "Oh yeah, these are the guys that were across the street at my neighbor's house." Sometimes they'll come out and say, "Oh yeah, I saw you over there. If while you're here, can I take a look at something?" I have this right here. Can you grab it? You know what? I'm already here. This is what we usually charge, but since I'm already here, I got a deal of a lifetime for you. Because guess what? I don't have to pay for that lead now. So I can afford to give them a discounted price. I might go to a customer's house and walk away with two of their neighbors' junk as well because I'm visible. They see my logo on my trailer or my truck. They see my brand. And like I said, those nosy neighbors, I got junk, but then they forget about it if you leave. If you don't leave those neighbors, those door hangers, you're missing out on a huge opportunity.
I'm glad you said that with the yard signs because that is one of the problems I think I'm going to run into. And I actually started off by going ordering 1,000 of these great branded signs with my logo on it and all. And then when I started driving around locally in my town, I would start noticing where the yard signs were. And I was noticing like they'd be there one day and then the next day they were gone. And I started thinking, I'm like, I've heard some of the people say that, the local sheriffs have contacted them and, kind of we're against them putting that up there. And I think I might live in one of those areas. And, the couple of other people that I've had on, they were like, oh, no, keep your logos, get them on there. But you were the first one that just said, with the fines. And I think that might be, something I got to worry about locally. And it's kind of disheartening knowing that I just, spent all that money and got 1,000 of these beautiful logoed signs and all. But I think I'm going to keep those yard signs for my actual customers, after I do a job on them. And, you know, Andrew gave me a good example where it's like, I'll take $20 off the job if I could just keep this out there for, the next 2 weeks or whatever in front of their house.
Yeah.
So what do you recommend as far as the bandit signs? Like, is there certain color scheme or something that I should go with, to just put my phone number and just plain junk removal on them?
Well, I've played with a lot of different variations. Obviously, like I said, I love my logo, and you should also find out from your county or whatever what the actual fines are. Because I forgot who it was, but somebody made a pretty good point once that they pay the fines regardless because that's just to them it's just part of their marketing budget. But with me, $1,000 a sign is pretty significant, so that's why I had to go in a different direction, which is disheartening because like I said, I'm really big on the branding part of it. Different people tell you different things on the signs. I think Xavier might be one that he's talking about the different psychological views on these signs. A lot of people point towards the yellow signs, using those. But to me, I still wanted to be connected to my brand. So mine is still, I still have my blue and white and black in there. That's usually with my logo. So, and I also use my tagline, which, you know, it's funny because it's once I found, figured out who Sonoma Strong was and found out who Matt Vick was, we kind of have the same tagline, too much junk. I thought that was funny, but I like to keep that on my sign, and with my phone number and everything else. But, I've tried again different variations. The first variation I tried, I wasn't getting the same response from. So I tried a another variation, different sizes. You know, to me, God, if I could just do my logo and build that because I'm working so hard to build my brand, but some areas it'll work better than others. I haven't had the same success with my signs without my logo. Um, but I'm still trying different variations. But and when you do talk to Xavier, he's got a lot of good information on that and what he recommends.
Is there any, do you use the tracking numbers that Andrew Thompson talks about? This way you could kind of trace where all your marketing is, you know,
Well, I have my regular phone number that I use on most of my marketing, but on those new bandit signs that I did, um, I took to heart that 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 advice that Andrew gave, about having a different phone number. So I do have a different phone number on my bandit signs. That way I know that that came from those signs.
and what do you see as like your success rate with those?
Um, right now, it's the signs that I'm using right now is not as successful as the original signs. That was probably, but if you put out 1,000 signs and you get 10 phone calls from that, you know, that's pretty successful in my eyes. That's why it's really important to um, be resilient when it comes to really putting out big numbers when you're going out there, putting out the volume, not just a couple a week or whatever, but really go all out. So you just said you bought 1,000 signs, you know really put that out there. The more you get, the more jobs you're going to get from it.
What are some of the biggest challenges you faced in the junk removal industry, and how did you overcome them?
The biggest challenge My biggest challenge used to be, um, which is the same as a lot most companies, is finding good people, right? So during that hiring process, I got to the point where I let them know right up front, look, if you're here to, just be a worker or helper, if you're here to collect just a paycheck, come to work, do your work, go home, pick up a paycheck, and not think about anything that we do here anymore, this is probably not the job for you, because I'm looking for people. I'm not looking for helpers or workers. I'm looking for people that I can develop into leaders. I don't believe in the having one lead and then one helper, which I hear a lot of. I'm developing everybody to be top notch, the top lead guy, everybody that walks in my door. I'm putting every effort I have to training them and developing them, and not just as great junk haulers, high performers, but leaders as well. And that impacts everybody's lives, not just the lead guys that have been there for a while or whatever. I start training that leadership from day one. So having that, it helps really, you know having that people stay longer, not just work a couple weeks and decide that this is not for them because it's just a bunch of hard work, but they actually have a career path in front of them. Not just they're going to help haul junk for a while, get a small paycheck, and go home. They actually have an opportunity to make real money with the company.
What does your hiring process look like, and do you believe in background checks?
I used to do a lot of background checks. I used to do, you know, read resumes, from Indeed. I used to go through that whole process. But being a junk remover, let's face it, it's not rocket science. You don't need somebody with a background in junk removal. You need somebody that's good with customers, dealing with customer service. I ask them questions that revolve around really taking care of customers. I think it was Russ Berry. He hires guys that were uh, all work in the hospitality industry. Bar, servers, bus boys, whatever, that deal with customers because they got good at dealing with customers. But to me, it's really, really basic. If they walked in there, they had a good personality, and if I see a smile on their face, their smile means a lot to me because I know the customer is going to love them. Everything else, I'm going to train them because, like I said, I had a really great process for training and development. So I can take anybody from any background and make them an amazing high performer when it comes to junk removal company, no matter what their background is. And no, as far as background checks, I did it for a while. I hated the results because being in Atlanta, everybody's got a background. So to me, I'll give you an example. I had one guy that worked for me. His older brother was just getting out of jail, and he told him, "Look, he's had a rough life. We all had a rough family life. He was in jail. He dealt with drugs and dealing drugs and had all this stuff, but he really needs an opportunity." So I brought that guy in. He ended up being one of the best performers I've ever seen. And he loved it. He was making such good money. I kept trying to get him to step up his game and actually, come into and being a trainer or work in operations. But no, the money is great out here and everything else. But then I started working with him more and more and finally got him to our training department. He actually went up and became our lead trainer. And as we started really, really growing, we actually created a position for him where he was going to be the lead trainer for all three Atlanta franchises. He was going to be the area director of people and development. We created a whole new position for him, and I kept telling him all the time that I'm training you to take my job. I want you to take my job because I want to grow with the company too. So I need somebody good enough to take my job. And the happiest day of my life is when I left, he took my job. That guy that nobody else would give a chance to just got fresh out of prison, and nobody wanted to give him an opportunity. That's why his brother came to me, and I gave him that opportunity. Now the guy's making six figures a year. He's traveling around the country. He bought a really beautiful house. He's really really happy.
That's a great success story right there. Now, I remember you telling us that you made like a training program and all. Is there somewhere that we could find that, or people could get in touch with you to get that training program that you provide?
Well, I've been doing this training with different junk removal companies. I had a course that was focused on creating, the on-site experience with customers, which is basically helping you build your own training process. And I've actually worked with a lot of, other junk removal companies, whether it be in person over Zoom or whatever. I'm doing a training now with a company out in Augusta, Georgia. I'm training their team and actually empowering their team to come up with a training program. Utilizing everything that I taught them in that course and build that. I'm waiting next Wednesday. They're actually putting together a training. Their homework was to put together a training program for them that's going to take everything that they've learned from my course and put it together with whatever I told them straight up front. We're not throwing away everything that you guys have learned and you guys have succeeded at and replacing it with mine. I want you to combine the two, put it together, find out what works for you. And you're going to build a training program with this that so that you guys can become the new trainers as you start scaling your business. You're going to train this to everybody that comes in afterwards. All the new hires that come in are going to learn this from you at a high level. And you guys, and one of the biggest parts of that is role playing, believe it or not. I actually run role plays in those trainings because, making them really, really uncomfortable running those role plays is going to make them comfortable out in the field. Doing it with their peers, every scenario that you're going to run into with a customer is covered in those trainings. So when these guys are out there in the field, whatever curveball that customer comes out with, they're going to have a response for it. They're going to be able to, you know, go and close that job at a high level.
Is there any way that people are you offering that service still, like this training course, or you're not really looking to do that?
Well, I haven't actually put it out there, but I've been actually had some guys reach out to me recently, and I actually gave them the recordings from previous sessions because I've been kind of busy lately. I actually was thinking about doing another one in November. I've done one-on-ones with specific companies, and as well, like I said, I'm doing one here. I did another one up in Kennesaw, Georgia, where I actually went to their location 5 weeks in a row and ran a training with their team. And man, these guys are taking off, and it's a beautiful thing to see.
Very cool. So as far as customer relationships, how do you approach building those relationships with customers, and why is that important in our industry?
It's extremely important, which is probably the reason I actually put the course together because everything that when I started my own business, first thing I did was I jumped on these junk removal Facebook groups, right? And what I was seeing was a real limited mindset. I see people fostering a culture of excuses. My customer's too cheap. That's just not my customer. I don't get out of bed for less than whatever amount of money, or I know my worth, you know, or the market is saturated. You fill in the blank. There's a lot of excuses out there. And I saw that that's kind of one of the reasons I did that because, you know, that's not my customer. Why not? You know, that's your ego talking. That's you know, building a relationship with the customer is the most important part because every time I do my training, the first thing I do is I have somebody stand up and role play with me their first interaction with the customer. And 100% of the time it's, hey, how you doing? My name's Paul. Where's your junk? Straight transactional. And that's where they fail. That's why they don't close at a high level, is because they're not building that relationship with that customer. Starting off building relational rapport with the customer is really important because they learn how to start trusting you. And people buy from who they trust. They're going to take your service because they trust you, and then turn that relational rapport into relevant rapport. Because guess what? You're going to find out why they're getting rid of their junk. And that's what's important. If you don't know why they're getting rid of their junk, how are you going to sell to them? Your service is junk removal. They need junk removal. That's pretty basic. But why? What is their actual challenge? Because if you know what their actual challenge is, whether it be time or space or effort, you can cater a solution directly to them because you already know why they're getting rid of that junk. So after I go and look at their junk and I'm giving them an estimate, instead of them thinking, damn, $600 to remove this junk, that's a lot of money. I'm able to remind them why they're getting rid of that junk. I'm bringing that out now that I already know that, reminding them, catering a solution directed at that, and by using that, I'm establishing the value of my service. And that's what's important. If they don't see value, all they think about is price. You know, price is only an issue because I see, all these people are like, well, they don't want my full price, then they're not my customer. That No, they don't want your full price because they don't see value in your service. You're just like every other junk removal company. They don't actually see value. If you cater a solution directed right at what they're looking for, it's easy to close that job.
So
You know,
what should be that opening sentence? You gave an example. Like, what would be the way that you would approach that? Like, how would you approach it if you're me and you just coming up to a junk removal job and you go to introduce yourself? How would you kick it off?
you know, building that relationship with them, it could be as easy as finding out, hey, how are you doing today? Or being observant, seeing something that that they like, and start talking about it. Hey, oh man, you got a really beautiful house here. Or if they got dogs, finding, loving on our dogs, giving them some love. People love their fur babies, and you start talking about that. Start talking about the car that they have in the driveway, or you see that they have something hanging up with their favorite sports team. You start talking about that. It opens them up. You know, it's an icebreaker, whether it's talking about the weather, the cars in the driveway, their neighborhood, their friends, their family, their pets. Just you start getting that, and the purpose of that is to build a strong connection with them. Get them to gain your trust. People don't say no to people that they like. I'm becoming their friend at this point, and I show interest in their lives. I'm not walking in there and say, where's your junk, it's going to cost this much, and get on my way. you know One of my guys actually taught me this because he used to be a door-to-door salesman, and he started talking about this technique called fords, which is FORDS: family, occupation, recreation, which means what they like to do for fun, hobby, their dogs, their pets, and sports. That's Fords, and just to build that relationship with them, and it worked great. Because I'm not walking in there as a robot like I mentioned before and being straight transactional. I'm actually building a relationship with them because at the end of the day, one, I want to close this job. Two, I want to keep this customer forever. I want this to, because you can spend thousands of dollars on marketing and advertising, but in junk removal, your real bread and butter is going to be repeat customers and referrals, referring you to their friends, their family, their coworkers. That's what's important because the lifetime value of every customer is at least $5,000. So, if you go into a customer and you don't close that job, one, you'll lose money because you just spent money for that lead. You just spent labor for sending two guys out there. You just spent money for fuel to get the truck out there, plus all the other maintenance and whatever it takes. You just lost money on that. So I'm making sure that I'm walking away with something on my truck, even if it's not the full. Like I mentioned before, somebody's talking about having that limited mindset. It's like if I don't get 100% of what, if I quote a job at $1,300, if I'm not walking away with $1,300, I'm out the door. That's not my customer. Me, they can't afford $1,300. I'm finding out what their priority items are. Oh, well, you can't afford all this, but because I know why they're getting rid of their junk. Hey, I saw that, I know that trampoline is what you really want to get out of here, most important, because or that old play set because your kids are coming in this weekend and putting up a trampoline for your grandkids. I'll charge you this much for that and get that out of your way, and we'll deal with this other stuff later. I'm prioritizing because I'm not walking away with nothing. I'm walking with something on my truck. I'm getting some sort of revenue in my truck.
That is priceless, and that Fords, I really like that approach. That is very, very smart, and I'm glad that you enlightened us with that. Thank you for that, brother.